promised Xi Jinping to be at certain points along their journey to being prepared to take Taiwan, capability-wise, and they're not achieving it. And so he's disappointed in them, he's firing them or disappearing them, depending on the case. And he's using corruption as a means to get them out of his way. There also might be some generals who are doubtful about the PLA's ability to take Taiwan. So he also wants to get rid of those people. He wants yes men around him, and not only yes men, but he wants people who are going to actually execute what he's asked them to do. And so I think that's why in the beginning, maybe 2 years ago, we saw the Rocket Forces commander and his replacement taken out. There's other reasons people are talking about, but I think the overall issue is his goal. And he needs to, and remember, the PLA is the People's Liberation Army for the Communist Party of China. It's not for the People's Republic of China. It's a party army. And so they have to do what he says. There's no, and he's head of the CMC, the Central Military Commission. So they have to follow his direction. And if they're not able to do it, I think that's why he's firing them.
But, against all odds, even, if they're advising him that he shouldn't do it, they're just, you think he's just determined.
Yes. I think that Xi Jinping would like to be added to the pantheon of the PRC gods, so to speak, in the communist world, right? They don't have gods, but, he wants to be compared to Mao.
To Mao, right.
Right. So his legacy.
He wants to be in a mausoleum.
Right. But he also wants to have the legacy of people looking up at him as being almost equivalent to or equal to Mao. And the only way he can achieve it is to finish the job that Mao didn't finish, which is to take Taiwan. Now, I think the vision is not just focused on Taiwan. I think China also claims the Senkaku Islands in southern Japan. They also have interest in taking control of the South Sea. They have interests in expanding their territory, and we had talked about Cleo Pascal. She's talking about how China is actually leapfrogging beyond the first island chain to the second and third island chain to try to co-opt those countries. So it would be a synchronous thing. So if they took Taiwan and these other countries are already controlled by China, then the entire Pacific becomes sort of their forward basing where they can push back the United States
with this
and democracy.
Massively growing Navy.
Correct. But also their massively effective United Front activities to co-opt politicians, businessmen all around the world. We're seeing it in the United States, we're seeing it in Canada. We see a lot of these activities actually are synchronous. They have a plan and they're executing it. And in Taiwan, they've been doing it since the beginning. In the early 50s, there was a spy that was caught, and he actually gave up 1,000 spies in Taiwan, 1,000. A year or two ago, the head of the National Security Bureau testified in the Legislative Yuan, which is where you testified, that there were at least 5,000 Chinese spies in Taiwan. So it's full on. What they're doing, and just like it's full on what they're doing in the United States with spies being caught all the time.
Right. Just to maybe remind us what the United Front is.
United Front is a uniquely communist organization. Okay, first of all, it was one of the 3 secret weapons of Mao. The first secret weapon was the Communist Party, the second was the PLA, and the third was the United Front. And the reason why United Front is a secret weapon is because it operates both inside China and outside China. And what it does is it's public in the sense that the people promote China. And externally, they infiltrate ethnic Chinese communities around the world. And what they try to do is push the idea that China is their homeland, motherland, and that they should help China. And it feeds into the Communist Party's idea that they own those people and they should comply with whatever China wants. So when Xi Jinping went to San Francisco to meet with President Biden, there was several thousand Chinese nationals and ethnic Chinese Americans who were asked to help with making sure that no one protested. There was no video of anybody protesting Xi Jinping's visit to San Francisco, and this is well documented. So it's a group of people that promote China, but they have operational aspects of it. If they want to achieve something unique, they will call upon them, and these people will help them because they feel an obligation to support China. So this goes through businesses.
Or the Chinese Communist Party's vision of China. Basically, when you
Correct.
say China, that's what you mean, right?
Yeah, of course. And it's a weapon for the Communist Party. And so what they do is they exploit it. They exploit relationships. They help people with business deals. So it's a.
But this expands beyond just ethnic Chinese as well, right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we had the case where President Clinton received funding from a Buddhist temple in California that got the money from communist China.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got this operation going on where there's a lot of manipulation and a lot of coordination with not only with United Front, but then that you have the MSS, the Ministry of State Security, which is like the CIA and a little bit of the FBI combined. And so you have all these different things going on that are way beyond what a normal, let's say, Western country does in terms of its intelligence operations. For example, stealing, doing economic espionage for the benefit of the state is not something that the Western governments typically are involved in. Mm-hmm. And the United Front, working with the MSS, will do actions that will promote that. You have people who benefit from their relationship with China. You have academics, you have businessmen who go to China and are limiting themselves in what they say because of their relationship with China. So they want to maintain that relationship with China. So you don't see them talking about human rights abuses because they wouldn't be invited back to China. Mm-hmm. So they have their own self-interests, and that's where things get interesting in terms of loyalties.
So you've just described, this incredible growth of the PLA. Some people describe it as the quickest military growth in the history of the world.
That's right.
And also the importance of Taiwan globally in terms of it, these highest end chips that are used to drive AI development, both in the United States and, China's made it, Xi Jinping's made it the centerpiece of his work. I'm kind of wondering to myself why there isn't more of a focus on, both from Taiwan's own perspective, defense, and you've shown me some interesting graphs which are kind of shocking, and the United States, and frankly, Western liberal democracies.
From 1955-56 until 1979, the United States had a mutual defense treaty with Taiwan. And then President Carter annulled it by not renewing it. And then the Taiwan Relations Act came into effect. And that act lays out the responsibilities of the United States and Taiwan. It says that the United States will provide defense equipment and articles so that Taiwan can defend itself. In other words, Taiwan will purchase weapon systems that will be sufficient to defend itself. That worked until the late 90s, as I mentioned before. The other part of that Taiwan Relations Act says this, that the United States will maintain the capacity and the capability to maintain peace in the Western Pacific, including, it's called the Taiwan Relations Act, so including regarding Taiwan and China. So up until the late 1990s, that was pretty much correct. There was a balance. But when China became an economic superpower and growing immensely from 2000 until today, the United States and Taiwan didn't keep up their promise in that act. That act is a U.S. law. And so I blame Taiwan and the United States for not pursuing that with vigor based on the threat. It could have been for a lot of different reasons. Taiwan helped China get strong economically. and the United States and all these other countries did too. So that's the framework that we're operating under. And I think both sides need to do a lot of work to return deterrence back in the favor of Taiwan.
What does deterrence look like?
Deterrence, in the case of China, I'll give you an example of how it worked against China. Of course, it's changed since then. But in the 1950s, President Eisenhower deployed nuclear weapons to Taiwan to send a message to Mao to not to invade Taiwan. He was going to invade Taiwan in the 50s. Actually, just before the Korean War, there was a opportunity that China was thinking about invading Taiwan. But in the first Taiwan Strait crisis and the second Taiwan Strait crisis, both of those time frames, China was aggressively pursuing taking Taiwan's islands and Taiwan itself. But the United States deterred China from doing that by threatening nuclear weapons. China did not have nuclear weapons until 1964, when they detonated their first nuclear weapon. So that's how deterrence works. The United States might not have used nuclear weapons, but China did a risk analysis, and they decided not to push their luck, because the Soviet Union at the time also did not promise to support them, being the only other country at the time that had nuclear weapons, even though they were friends. So today, what deterrence looks like is, if Taiwan and the United States are going to return to something like that, Xi Jinping and his generals and his advisors need to believe that they won't be successful in invading Taiwan and also controlling Taiwan. So there has to be sufficient capabilities for the Taiwanese to prevent